Hi guys, Steve, or Steve the Amateur Historian, Steve the Director, Steve the Amateur Historian, whichever one you want to believe I am right now, because I'm posting it on both my channels. I want to there's chaos in this house. This is part of life of living in a basement. Anyway, I just want to reflect back a little bit on my film so far. We've got 3 shooting days down, and we're planning on having a total of 6. Granted, the 2 interior days are probably going to be longer than any days we've had so far, so technically we're not quite halfway through, but we're pretty close. And I mentioned this in other videos, but as far as being a significant piece of work, like this is going to be a feature-length film that I've written, I'm directing, I'm shooting it, I'm coordinating it, putting it all together, gonna cut it, edit it later on. It's my little baby. Around 2012, once I finally actually got a legitimate film class taken in college, I just took off filmmaking. Between the end of summer 2012 and the end of pretty much November 2015, I had shot maybe 14, 15 movies, including a couple that I was like director of photography on a couple of other projects that friends of mine were doing. So I was just in full filmmaking mode for about 3.5 years. And then I did Runaway Highway, which just completely drained me. And I pretty much stopped doing film for about 6 months before I even brought the project up and started editing it. It was my first feature. It took like 4 months longer than we planned to get done just because of scheduling conflicts and na. And I started 6 months after finishing Runaway Highway. I really started getting into historical places, urban exploration, stuff like that. I really started getting into it because I'd never been invested into it before. When I started doing it, it was like an addiction. And I still love doing that, which is why I have my Steve the Amateur Historian channel. But that's been more of my film video experience over almost the last 3 years, now that it's early fall 2018. That's mostly what I did. I did a documentary about a major historical event in Portland, and over 300, probably pushing 400 between my 2 channels that I've had of content on my YouTube channel. And that was a lot of what I did. I haven't done a film like this in a long time, and I gotta tell you, I was overwhelmed. I was scared. About 2 hours into the first day of shooting this first film, I legitimately had about a 15-minute, you can call it an anxiety attack. Essentially, I was like, this is too much. I can't handle this. This is terrible. I don't know what I'm doing anymore. One of those moments. I legitimately was having one of those. As we're beginning to film the last scene of the film, which, by the way, this film has 100 scenes in it, which is a freaking lot. Granted, a lot of those shots are very short, and a lot of them are like, these 6, 7, 8 scenes are part of one montage. So, but I was truly overwhelmed that first day, and I felt incredibly rusty. And when the shooting day ended, I was like, I made it through, and I was like, okay, we can finish this movie. But I didn't really have great confidence that this was going to be all that great of a movie. But I'm always like that. Pretty much while I'm shooting, I feel like I'm putting in like a B effort. Not necessarily a B minus and not quite a B plus. But I just finished organizing everything out, marking down all the shots and matching the audio with it, so I have that to reference later on when I'm actually cutting the film together. And as is always the case, I watch it more objectively in the aftermath, and the stuff I've shot is pretty good. And even the acting is better than I remember it being on those days. So, a lot of that is just me and my internal whatever. But considering I am very rusty and haven't made a film in a very long time of this nature, especially where it's guerrilla filmmaking and I'm having to coordinate this whole thing, by myself. I don't have an assistant director. I don't have an executive producer throwing me cash when problems arise. I don't have a big budget. We're filming on a city street. I can't tell a loud truck, hey, stop, we're filming here. We just have to deal with whatever comes at us, and that's rough, and it's part of the reason why I'm not intending on making films in this style for too much longer. I want to start working more with other people on their stuff, and the stuff that I do, I want it to be shorter films, at least until I get a little more clout and I can get a little bit more money my way, and I can actually like fund projects like this and actually pay people what they need, and I can actually afford to handle this and push that away and have a more robust setting, instead of going out there and having to legitimately hope that everything is going to go all right. But I've started, even with that rustiness and those nerves and that anxiety and the worries that, God, do I have it anymore? And I've been constantly putting it off because, and then the longer I go without making a film, the more like daunting it becomes, and I keep coming up with these ideas, and then they become really long ideas. I'm like, well, now I don't want to do it because that's too much to do. I can't do Runaway Highway again right now. And then finally, I kept sticking into it with this You Make Me Smile film, and I finally got the lead role cast, which was the big thing that was holding us back. It took me like 4 months to cast the lead in this film. I ended up having to change the character's age and slightly adjust her dynamic just to make it work, and it's actually worked fantastically as far as I'm concerned. All that said, I'm reflecting back on the first 3 out of these presumably 6 shooting days that we're going to have, and I've noticed that, you know, I used to, if I was really tired at the end of a shooting day, I would kind of give in, and the last scene I would shoot would always be a little bit weaker because it was like, we're close to the end, let's just get this scene done and go. And now I'm actually like kind of pausing and getting extra stuff because it's like, well, we're almost done and I have room on my camera and we have time, let's expand on it. So I'm actually putting a little bit more in. Like, going through these shots I have, I've noticed there's takes where I thought I only got 1 or 2, and then it turns out I got 3 or 4, and I don't even remember doing that on scene. And, you know, again, I started filming this film 10 days ago. It's not like I've been working on this for months, and it's like I'm trying to remember something that happened 3 months ago. And just beyond that, you know, and it didn't seem like it because Runaway Highway, we cut chunks out of it. A Runaway Highway was originally like 112 pages, and we ended up shooting closer to like 100 pages of it. There were a few things that I kind of cut out because they were making scenes too long, and a few things just kind of weren't necessary. But still, you know, it was over 100 pages that we shot. It was also only 58 scenes because there were, you know, longer scenes. And here's this new script I have that's like 75 pages, and it's got 100 scenes, and I've actually gotten, even now, like, I'm just now kind of remembering exactly what each scene is, because I'm not used to having to remember 100 different scenes for a film. I've never had to reflect back on a list of all the scenes, just remember what scene 28 is, or remember what scene 64 is. And again, before Runaway Highway, the longest film I'd done was like 45 minutes, and that probably had like 25 scenes in it. You know, when I first was getting into film, even the longer ones I was doing only had 20 to 30 scenes. A Runaway Highway had 58. I thought that was a lot. And now I have 100 scenes to deal with, and we've shot about half of them because a lot of the exteriors are, again, really short scenes. But yeah, looking at it now, everything looks a lot better now that I'm examining it with new eyes, and more objective eyes, for that matter. And it feels really good to be doing this again. You know, I had that anxiety the first day, and then the second day we shot, 2 days later, was just one constant problem after another. We ended up starting an hour late. The location I originally wanted to use for the first scene, which was dead silent when I walked through it, nobody around. Suddenly the building we were going to stand in front of is getting like the front end knocked down. And just a constant plane, the trains, the fucking trains that we had to deal with. We lost an hour. We lost 2 hours just having to start late and having to deal with trains. Everything that could have been a problem was, even the end where we literally stopped at a park, regathered. We were originally going to shoot a scene there in the park. There was 2 vehicles there that had people that were like junkies there that were just like wandering back and forth yelling at each other. So I'm like, well, thank God we chose not to film there because we'd be hearing them screaming at each other in the background for the whole scene. It was like nothing went according to plan. Every single scene had some problem that came up. But we got it done. And after getting through those first 2 days, now suddenly you don't have a whole entire film looming in front of you, which is incredibly daunting. Now you're a third of the way through, which means you still got a long way to go. But hell, if you can handle all the crap we had to deal with in those first 2 days, and most of what we have left is interiors, I mean, come on. So I feel really, really good. I feel energized. I've had all sorts of just like body aches and body issues and soreness and just ongoing for like the last 2 years, and a lot of it is the way I sleep. I suck at keeping myself hydrated. These are all things I'm, slowly getting better at remembering so that I have the energy to do this stuff, in addition to like trying to continue YouTubing or making videos for my YouTube channel while all this other stuff is coming about. When I woke up today, all I knew was tomorrow I have a short shooting day with just my lead actress. Should be pretty easy, mostly in car, so we don't have to worry too much about exterior noises and whatnot. And then next Wednesday, we're planning on trying to get all the interiors done, and then that'll be a wrap on the film. We may end up having a couple scenes carry on into a couple hours on another day, but the plan is by next Wednesday, 6 days from now, this whole thing is going to be shot, finished, wrapped. I'm going to have all the footage, and I can start cutting it together and putting together my first real solid film that I wrote, directed, in, again, almost 3 years, even though it took me a long time to cut together Runaway Highway, and I didn't have a serious copy done until, like, about a year and a half ago. And, but yeah, so I woke up this morning, and I was also, this series called In the Culture, which is on YouTube, and it's really gaining views, especially for the last week. I've been their sound guy, and they have an episode that they really need to shoot on Tuesday, which means I'm going to have about a 10-day shoot on Monday. I go to work on Tuesday. I'm going to try to get off early, get to that set, be the sound guy for that, not get home till 8 or 9 at night. Wednesday comes, we have another like 8-hour shoot of interiors, and then hell, I probably work Thursday. But still, that was all I really knew, was I'm going to try to make this audio thing, and we got these last 3 days of shooting to do. That was all that I knew when I woke up this morning. Then I get a text from my friend who I'm doing this show with, and apparently now, after we get these interiors done, like the weekend after this coming one, I'm going to be brought on for 2 days to help shoot somebody else's film. That's going to pay me even more than the show does. And then I get a text from the guy that does the show saying, hey, if we pay for it, can you fly down to LA with us? So now apparently at the end of October, I'm going to be flying down to Los Angeles with these guys so we can do a few more episodes for the show. So like, I'm going on a trip to LA in like a month. Like, all of a sudden, and I'm planning on doing another documentary after I get this movie done that I'm doing now. I plan on doing another feature-length documentary after that. Like, too much is coming at me at once, and it's so crazy because, again, up until about a month ago, I didn't even know if You Make Me Smile, the film I'm doing now, was honestly for certain going to happen. Then I got the character cast, we scheduled shooting days for about 2 weeks in advance so we could all get our, get ourselves together and get ready, and now we've started shooting on that. Now all this other stuff is happening out of nowhere, and it's crazy, and it's really exciting, and because this is what I wanted. I wanted to kind of transition into working more on other people's stuff and getting paid so that I don't have to work my day job as much. I can start slowly moving my way out of there and starting to make more of my money doing what I love to do, which is filmmaking. If I can make a little money through YouTube, that's great, but I'm not banking on that ever happening. I've had this YouTube channel up for over a year now, and I appreciate all of my subscribers, but I'm only at like 267 subscribers in like 15 months, so I'm not exactly going to be raking in the financial rewards, not that there's a whole lot, through YouTube for quite some time, if ever. So anyway, the future is seeming brighter every day, even with all the shit in the world we have to deal with. Anyway, I just kind of want to get on here and rap a little bit about making film again, because that's all that's been in my mind for the last 2 weeks, and so I'm just kind of spilling it out little bit by little bit. I'm just jazzed about all this stuff right now. So, if you like this, I'm glad, and if you don't, sorry, because this is definitely not going to be the last time I'm up here rambling like this. Anyway, if you made it these whole, like, almost 15 and a half minutes, thank you, you are a trooper. If you didn't, I totally understand. But anyway, guys, that's all I had to say. I'm going to shut my big mouth because otherwise we're going to be here forever. Anyway, I'm just super excited. I'm jazzed. It's like I just got shot up with drugs and I'm ready to take on the world. One film at a time, I guess. Even though that's not even going to remotely be the case. It's like 4 films at a time. Anyway, thanks for watching. I love you guys. See you next time.